Hey, what's up, people? Piz out here, and today I want to talk to you guys about the newly released possession thriller Deliver Us from Evil, directed by Scott Derrickson, who brought us such films as Sinister, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and that fifth Hellraiser movie, whatever it was called. The film stars Eric Bana as this just tough as nails, hardcore New York City detective who just eats, sleeps, breathes his job. And he has this penchant, which he calls his radar, that always leads him to interesting cases, let's put it that way. And his radar in Deliver Us from Evil eventually leads him down a very, very dark path in which we discover that there seems to be a rash of possessions happening in New York City. And Mr. Bana, with the aid of his best friend partner, played by the fella who used to host The Soup on the E! Network, and a priest, have to unlock the mystery of why is everyone being possessed, and, you know, what the hell's going on here. And Deliver Us from Evil can basically be broken up into two films. You've got sort of a standard police procedural focusing on, you know, like I said, this tough as nails, hardcore cop who, you know, is all about the job. 24/7, the job. He neglects his, you know, young wife and young daughter because he's all about the job. He's, you know, we get the idea that, you know, he's seen and done and been involved in some really, really dark cases and has just seen, you know, the vile depths of humanity, and it's kind of changed him. And the other film is, or the other half of the film is, you know, a possession thriller horror film. Now, the first half of the movie is sort of burdened with, you know, we've seen this all done before and much better. We've seen, you know, the hardcore cop character in so many movies that, you know, neglects their family, neglects their friends because, you know, they're solely focused on the job. We've got some cliche characters and just, you know, sort of a family dynamic that just, for me, didn't really work. It was really sort of the weakest parts of the film. Now, the horror, possession, thriller parts of the film, they're handled a little bit better. They're going more toward mood and a little deeper psychological horror than just the simple sort of, you know, boo scares, although we do have some boo scares in the film, none of which are particularly effective. We do have a fairly creepy atmosphere, a nice mood throughout the film. Nice music on the soundtrack. Apparently the demons in this film, they love the music of the Doors. And who can blame them? So, I mean, we've got a lot of Doors music in the film, which, hey, fine by me. The movie really all builds to the final 15-20 minutes of the film, which is the big exorcism sequence. And the exorcism sequence is done very, very well. Pretty intense. Lots going on there. Did enjoy that part of the film a lot. The exorcism alone, I think, is enough to kind of, you know, recommend the movie just on that basis alone. Overall, Deliver Us from Evil is an okay movie. It's good. It's not great. We've seen much better. But I want you guys to go out and see it. I do recommend it. It is a theatrical horror movie. And we haven't had a whole lot of theatrical horror movies this year. And if you'll look at the slate of movies that are coming out for the rest of the year, there's not a lot of horror coming out theatrically there either. So I think we do need to go out and support this movie so we can get more theatrical horror movies. Now, as I said, is this an awesome movie? Is it a great movie? No. There's really not much that we haven't seen in this film, in other films, in both cop movies and in both, you know, possession horror type movies, which, I mean, you know, the whole possession horror movie, you know, it was pretty big. It's kind of cooled off. But we've seen a lot of possession type horror movies as of late. But yeah, I mean, overall, I do recommend Deliver Us from Evil. You know, there are good performances in the film from Eric Bana, from Olivia Munn. Good atmosphere in the movie, like I said. Nice, eerie, creepy mood throughout the entire film. Yeah, great soundtrack, you know, love those Doors. Or, you know, I don't know, as I was walking out of the theater, I mentioned to a friend of mine, I was like, hey, I love that soundtrack. And they were like, the Doors? what about Ozzy? What about Black Sabbath? And I was like, well, the Doors were probably a little cheaper to license than the Black Sabbath catalog, but you know, well, the Doors are A-okay with me. So, and yeah, in the last act of the movie, some pretty intense sequences, really cool exorcism at the end, and a fairly nice little message at the end, a message of redemption. So, yeah, I do recommend it. Go out, support theatrical horror. I do have to tell you guys this story. It reminds me of why I sometimes don't go watch movies in theaters, even though I want to. Even though, I mean, I've had a really good run. I've not had a really bad movie-going experience theatrically in a long time. But I had one today watching Deliver Us from Evil. And it was really a repulsive thing. We had it was grandparents. It wasn't a mother, father, it was grandparents. Right before the movie started, this old guy in a tank top comes in, mullet, talking at the top of his lungs, because, hey, who cares? Literally throws this little girl, 5, 6 years old, at the very most, onto the grandmother, because I'm guessing he's probably going to watch the new Transformers movie, and he can't be bothered by this little girl, because he's got to focus, you know, he's got to be 100% invested in the new Transformers movie. So he pawns the poor little girl off on Nana, who is watching Deliver Us from Evil. Perfect movie for any 5-year-old. And the movie starts, and the 5-year-old, and she's crying, and I don't want to watch this, I don't like this, I want Papa, I want Papa. And it really gets to the point where, you know, you're really at the end of your strings, and you're thinking, okay, should I go down and be like, look, take the kid out, or I'm going to talk to management, or just go to management and say, look, there's child endangerment going on here. Finally, the grandmother gets up, takes the kid by the arm, drags her out of the theater, and comes back without her. So at least I'm thinking, okay, we can watch the movie in peace. Half an hour later, the grandpa comes back in, yelling at the top of his lungs, come get Sissy, come get Sissy. She's been in the bathroom for 40 minutes. I can't even watch my movie. I might as well go outside and wait in the car. Grandma gets up, walks out. A couple minutes later, brings back this poor little kid into the movie. Again, she's crying. She clearly does not want to watch this movie. Whether she's, you know, it's a freaky movie. There's lots of freaky stuff going on in this movie. And some of it happening to little kids. And you know, this little kid, not happy, crying, doesn't want to watch this movie, wants to go back to Peppa. Not happy. Finally, I don't know if they drugged the kid, if they just stuffed candy down the kid's throat. Finally, she hushed, and we watched the movie. But I was just thinking, like, you know, people. You know what I mean? Just repulsive. Repulsive. It reminded me of why, you know, I do have, you know, walking into a movie, if it's a full crowded house, I have an anxiety. I have like an anxiety attack. The only time I ever feel panicky or anxious is when I walk into a movie and it's full, because I just know there's got to be 1 or 2 people in this audience who are just going to ruin it. They're just going to be, you know, talking the whole time, or they're going to be texting or talking on the phone the whole time, or, I mean, you know, God knows. So, I mean, just really, I really felt sorry for that little girl, because, I mean, Deliver Us from Evil, and of course, they can't just be like, okay, we've made a mistake bringing this poor little girl to the theater, let's just go. No, they paid their money to watch Deliver Us from Evil and probably Transformers, so they're going to stay and watch it, regardless of whether or not it ruins everybody else's experience, you know. Oh, God. People. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Deliver Us from Evil. Go watch it. Support theatrical horror. Pretty good movie. Not great. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it 7. Out of 4 stars, I'd probably give it, you know, 2.5. Good. not great, but I recommend it. Go see it. So until next time, you guys take it easy. Peace.